Hi everyone, welcome back to Visually Hidden Selects. I'm Peter O'Brien, and today I would like to talk to you about Once Upon a Time in the West from 1968, directed by Sergio Leone. This was Leone's first film in Hollywood. He had recently found great international success with his Dollars trilogy, namely A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And his goal was to go to Hollywood and make a film called Once Upon a Time in America, which he later made in the 1980s. When he arrived in Hollywood, they really wanted another Western that they could market alongside his name because of his great success in the genre. The film follows four main characters as their paths converge on a prosperous plot of desert land. Claudia Cardinale plays Jill, a woman from New Orleans looking for a fresh start and finding tragedy. Frank, played by Henry Fonda, is the maniacal chaperone of that tragedy. Cheyenne, played by Jason Robards, is a charming rogue who is both victim and bringer of circumstance. And Charles Bronson plays Harmonica, a phantom fueled by both justice and vengeance. The score consists of pretty much four pieces of music that represent each of the main characters, but Harmonica's theme is just this haunting echo of the harmonica whenever he's on screen or whenever he's present in the story. It just kind of comes like screeching across the soundtrack, and it instantly puts you on edge, but in a good way. Ennio Morricone, who had written the music for Sergio Leone's previous westerns, was once again hired as the composer, and at Leone's request, Morricone wrote all of the music before they even started filming, which is kind of a backwards approach, but Leone wanted to have these themes written for the actors to utilize in their performance. He would play the score as they were filming. That also sounds a little weird, but in Italian cinema at the time, they never recorded sound. One of the reasons that they did this was because these films were, again, made for an international audience. So it was easier to dub the Italian language with the Italian voice actors and then bring in American or English-speaking actors for the English market, and so on and so forth. The sound design on these films, though, is incredible. That they put in every single sound effect, every single spur jangle, every single gun cock, everything was done in post-production, and that's just a real credit to the Italian film industry. Funny enough, this film has no opening theme. The film starts very abruptly with three men showing up at a train station, and then it's a 10-minute opening sequence of these men just waiting for the train to arrive, and there's no music to carry it through. And so you hear the squeak of the windmill, you hear the ticking of the telegraph, you hear flies buzzing, you hear water dripping, you hear all of these different sounds that are present in the environment. This opening sequence is something that really stuck out to me the first time I started watching this movie. It just made a very strong impression, not only because of the absence of the music, but the production design. The train station itself is just a very striking setting, and you get to see beautiful cinematography, you get to see some subtle humor, and you also get a great sense of tension. These men are waiting for the train, but again, you don't know when it's going to show up and what's going to happen when it does show up. So tension, beauty, and humor are all present in this opening sequence, and that's something that, again, carries through the rest of the film. The film was plagued by edits upon its original release, and it played mostly uncut in Europe. This film actually did surprisingly well in France, where it allegedly played for 2 to 4 years straight in a single theater. So that was its biggest market. For the US release, the distributor cut out approximately 22 minutes of the film, and a lot of people tend to think that's what hurt its box office return in the United States. It really didn't do that well in America, surprisingly. However, I don't think that is actually the case. Personally, I think that it was the casting of Henry Fonda in the role of Frank. And he is phenomenal in this film. He is one of the main reasons to watch this movie, is for his performance. However, up until this point in time, Henry Fonda had never played a villain. He was Abraham Lincoln. He was juror number 8 in 12 Angry Men. He was Tom Joad in The Grapes of Wrath. He was the wrong man in Alfred Hitchcock's The Wrong Man. Like, he was never a bad guy. And here he comes in this Western playing one of the baddest of the bad. He probably buys his wallet at the same shop as Jules from Pulp Fiction, if you know what I mean. And so I just have to attribute it to audiences not being ready to accept him in that particular role at that particular time. It would be the same as if Tom Hanks took on a very malicious, cold-blooded role of a killer. And again, not that he couldn't do it, not that he shouldn't do it, but audiences just, I think, would have a very hard time accepting Forrest Gump as a cold-blooded killer. And that was the case with Henry Fonda in Once Upon a Time in the West. And it's partially because it was just ahead of its time. Sergio Leone saw something in Henry Fonda, who was one of his favorite actors, and Henry Fonda, being a fantastic actor, was able to rise to the occasion. And again, he is one of the main reasons to watch this movie. He's known for being a good guy, and he has these baby blue eyes that everybody is enamored with. And here, those baby blue eyes turn to daggers of ice and just cut right through everybody he gazes upon. The protagonist of Once Upon a Time in the West is the character of Jill, played by Claudia Cardinale. And it makes for a very unique approach to the story, because not only is she not a cowboy, not a gunfighter, and not a man, but she's in a man's world and she has to navigate it. And to each of the supporting male characters, she embodies a very strong female relationship with each of these men, whether it be lover or mother or partner. She does all of these things. She wears all of these different hats depending upon who she's interacting with. And the fact that she is in a new environment and she finds herself in this situation really allows for the audience to connect with her, whether you're male or female, because you yourself are new to this situation and figuring your way through it. I didn't see this movie until it came out on DVD in 2003. I had grown up watching the Dollars trilogy with Clint Eastwood, and so I was very familiar with those movies, but without taking anything away from the Dollars trilogy, this film exceeded my expectations of what a Western could be and what it could achieve. It was just coming at it from a different direction, and as a filmmaker, any Sergio Leone movie is going to speak to you. His use of cinematography in general, the way he introduces his characters, the way he photographs them and their composition and their juxtaposition within the frame, he just has a very great technical vocabulary that he uses to tell his stories. The title itself, Once Upon a Time in the West, denotes a kind of fairy tale aspect to this particular story. Once upon a time, it's a fable, it's not real, and there are hints of that throughout the story with regard to the characters, with regard to the setting and the situation. So it's taking a very familiar genre, but it's presenting it in kind of a skewed way, where it looks like a Western, it has all the elements of a Western, but things are just a little bit different. The music, the cinematography, the sound design, the characters, the story, all of these elements incorporate a cinematic poetry, and it is essentially the most artistic Western you're likely to see. It just pushes the genre to its limit in a previously unmatched way. So that's it for Once Upon a Time in the West. Again, if you're looking for something familiar but different in a good way, then I cannot recommend this film enough. It is really the high water mark for the Western genre, and if you agree, if you disagree, let us know in the comments. We will be discussing it at length on the Visually Hidden podcast, so be sure to tune into that. Until next time, see ya!